My most watched video so far is the feature I did on the combat of Oni. Many commenters identified Sleeping Dogs as an overlooked example of great melee combat in an open world game. Some suggested it might even be better than Oni's. It's not quite. However, it comes close, and what Sleeping Dogs does with melee combat surpasses any other open world game I've played. Sleeping Dogs came out in autumn of 2012. It's almost 10 years old now. Because of its open city design, it invites comparisons to GTA, True Crime, and Watch Dogs. But because of its melee combat, it invites comparisons to Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Mad Max, and Watch Dogs Legion specifically. In order to really appreciate the melee combat in Sleeping Dogs, we need to look at similar combat mechanics from other games. At the time of its release, many Sleeping Dogs reviewers compared its combat to Batman.
It's Batman-esque, the combat, isn't it?
Melee fighting, and that it's like Arkham Asylum.
Once again, it's very Arkham-inspired.
It's meant to mimic recent simple combat systems like Rocksteady's Batman.
Combat that was more comparable to Batman Arkham games than anything else.
So I reinstalled Arkham City to see how it compares. It's not even close. Let's quickly compare 5 open-world games with strong melee combat components. Please note I'm limited to games I've played. In order of release: Batman Arkham City, Sleeping Dogs, Mad Max, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Watch Dogs Legion. Of these, which ones have telegraphed attacks and blocks? Only the first 3. Odyssey has a parry, but the only telegraph is the attacker's body language. Legion has neither. Which ones have an evade move? All of them, except Sleeping Dogs. Which ones use the environment as a weapon? And which ones have a diverse moveset executed by player inputs? Only Sleeping Dogs. Ranking from best to worst. Of these, Batman is the absolute worst. I'm comparing Arkham City since it came out the year before Sleeping Dogs, and therefore that's the game the reviewers were comparing it to. It's the only game of the 5 that moves the character for the player. All I have to do is block with the right mouse button and strike with the left. Evade if I want. But just spam the attack button and keep an eye on those telegraphed attacks and the game basically plays itself. It's really unsatisfying. Absolutely boring. To be clear, equating anything to Batman's combat is a straight-up insult, and saying a game has better combat than Batman is clearing a really low bar. The remaining 4 games at least require the player to move around the combat area and pick targets. Watch Dogs Legion has cool interacting mechanics in the rest of the game, but melee combat is just strike, evade, and break guard. It's still way better than Batman. Mad Max has light and heavy strikes, evade, and block. When fully upgraded, he'll use walls automatically and is prompted to use shivs on stunned opponents. Environmentally, he can turn gas cans into bombs, but that's not really a melee feature. Assassin's Creed Odyssey also has light and heavy strikes, evade, and block. I'm ignoring all those adrenaline abilities that are fired off by pressing the assigned Do Action button, but since having them is more fun than not, Odyssey beats Max. But at a distant first is Sleeping Dogs. Here's why. Many of the combat abilities in Sleeping Dogs are unlocked throughout the game, but right out of the gate, you can take advantage of what might be its most popular feature, environmental hazards. To use them, Sleeping Dogs has another tool most games don't implement, a grab. Here are the keys, and they're logical enough I didn't remap any. At any time, on any NPC, aggressive or passive, approach them and hit F. This grabs them by the shirt. Now, lead them to any object with a red outline and hit F again to trigger a finishing environmental takedown. It's kind of simple, a little bit easy, but a lot bit entertaining. Here's a quick look at all the fun to be had with the environmental attacks. That's not even all of them. And it doesn't stop there. There are a bunch of environmental hazards that don't glow red I can also use. Water. Walls. Concrete barriers and handrails. Or just throw them over. Or break backs. Flower beds. The world is my anvil. And cars. Now, cars are special. If I bring a car to a fist fight, I can clean up without even getting out. But what's the point in that? Grab someone, lead them to the car door, hit F, and I get my favorite kill in the whole game. Or I can throw them in the trunk, alive. I can drive somewhere and then pull them out. Alright, that covers environmental attacks. Blocking. Yes, there is a telegraphed attack and a block window. E. And there is the only Batman similarity. But there's also a penalty for hitting the block key when there's no incoming attack. Later, a dim mock dodge and counter is unlocked by hitting E and F together. As I go through these, understand, many of these moves need to be unlocked throughout the game. I'm not going to talk about leveling. These moves come from a fully unlocked character. Basic attacking. Mouse click is punch. This can be chained up to 5 times. But there are 5 variations on the chain of hits when you click and hold the mouse button down. One click and hold is a basic kick. It can be followed up with a front snap kick with a second click. Two clicks, holding on the last, is a strike and a leg sweep, tripping opponents. Three clicks holding on the last is a knee to the stomach. This stuns the antagonist, leaving them open for a follow-up kick to the face, often producing a KO. Four clicks holding on the last ends with the spinning heel kick, which knocks opponents down. And 5 clicks, holding on the last, ends with a jumping roundhouse kick. If Wei is sprinting, shift forward. A normal strike becomes a spinning back kick. Which can also be followed up with a front snap kick. Up to this point, all attacks have been executed with the left mouse button. Not very creative from an input perspective. But still, they are combos I have complete control over. If I want the jumping roundhouse kick, it comes after holding on the 5th click. If I want the spinning back kick, I have to start from a sprint, etc. Grappling. Now, we've already seen that grapples, the game's word for grabs, are the key to environmental kills. Once I grab someone, F, I can also punch them up to 3 times. The third sends them flying. Or I can click and hold for a trip and back slam. Click twice, holding on the second, and Wei will break his opponent's leg. This will cause the other combatants to wince, give you Wei time to get in a free move. 3 hits, holding on the third, will break his opponent's arm. If I'm not going to run them into a wall or a hazard, I can always just throw them. Other moves. Hold shift to run. Release and hold shift again to jump things. Do this against a wall and click at the top, and Wei will spin off of it doing a flying roundhouse. Sprint at somebody and hit F to tackle them to the ground. If they're armed, they'll drop their weapon. An upgraded Wei can also land a follow-up punch before he gets up. It'll take that person a few seconds to recover. I have the option to pick them up, F. Now I have them in a grapple. And I can do all the moves on him that begin with a grapple. Or I can just keep kicking him while he's down. Useful for guys who resist grapples. If Wei gets knocked down, he'll get up. But a mouse click will make him spring up and do a series of moves his opponents do not want to get in the way of. Roll over opponents and land behind them to strike at their back by locking on them with the right mouse and hitting shift. Pressing F and right mouse executes the devastating climbing elbow strike. On encountering someone with their back turned, hit F for an insta-kill. A slide tackle across the countertop is also an insta-kill, apparently. Stuns. Various attacks will stun opponents. As mentioned before, once stunned, I can field goal them. Or, depending on the attack that stunned them, holding F will perform a unique follow-up strike. Stun him with a climbing elbow strike, and holding F will punch him repeatedly. Stun him with a knee to the gut, and holding F will knee his face. Stun him with a leg break, and holding F will put an elbow in the back of his skull. Opponent types. There are 4 basic types of opponents. Brawlers. Your basic fighters. The game describes them as heavy hitters with strong defense, easy to grapple, and recommends using any moves on them. Strikers. Versatile fighters who block a lot of your attacks. Again, use a variety of attacks on them. Grapplers. Can't be grappled, but can't defend either. Trying to grab them always fails. They will grab and hold you. The grabs can be parried, but don't come with red outline telegraphs, so they're harder to spot. Once they have Wei, spam E or F as prompted to get loose. You can also kick while trying to get loose if there's someone directly in front. Armed thugs. Armed thugs are the most dangerous. They also resist grappling. But all their attacks are telegraphed and can be countered. Once I unlocked the ability, I found the best way to defeat them was to tackle them to the ground and recover the weapon they dropped. Oh yeah! Weapons! I can use those weapons once they hit the ground. I can hack and slash with them. Or throw them, which usually one hits. If I know I'm walking into a fight, most cars keep a tire iron in the trunk. Just get it. Weapons have a durability, so they're only good for a few hacks. Or a single throw. Having 4 enemy types keeps brawls interesting. It took me a while before I could change my tactics on the fly, Early on, I got too comfortable grappling and bashing. The brawlers and armed thugs messed me up until I learned how to attack them differently. But wait, there's more. Being essentially a brawler, guns are hard to come by. If I need a gun, the game typically provides one. And keeping a gun is almost impossible as the game frequently takes them away. There are no gun stores. Compared to most games, gun combat is pretty simple. But Sleeping Dogs still has a couple surprises. Jumping from behind cover and aiming throws Wei into a bullet time. Not exactly fair, but it's one of the many examples of how Sleeping Dogs puts a twist on conventional gaming tropes to keep it fresh and fun. Gun areas are usually sprinkled with unstable explodey things. And if I have a gun in hand, grappling with an opponent turns them into a human shield. If I could change anything, it would be the input controls themselves. I don't like having the best moves locked behind 5 clicks. Nor do I consider 5 clicks of the same button to be a real combo. Wei doesn't have a jump or an evade mechanic, and adding both would open up combat options even more. I mean, the spacebar's right there, and it's used for throwing things? I also wish the late game moves could be unlocked earlier, so I could practice them, and use them before the end of the game. The combat in Sleeping Dogs still doesn't beat Oni's. What it does beat is the melee combat system of every open world game I've ever played. Let me know if I've overlooked a contender. So there you go. Melee combat in Sleeping Dogs. You can say it's awesome, you can say it's too complicated, you can say it's still too easy. Just don't say it's like Batman. They're at opposite ends of the spectrum. And hey, if I've dumped too much praise on Sleeping Dogs and overlooked a game that's just as cool or better in this area, let me know. It's thanks to commenters that I discovered Sleeping Dogs. In part 2 of this video, I'll take a look at how Sleeping Dogs handles side missions, extracurricular activities, food, leveling, driving, and everything else that makes Sleeping Dogs special. The developers took almost every open world trope and said, but what else could we do? That video's coming next. Thanks for watching.